Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the World Knowledge Forum 2025, the Crypto Revolution. My name is Jong-wook, the CEO of WaveBridge, and I'm really honored to be your moderator today. And let me introduce myself a little bit briefly. And my career has always been connecting the finance and digital finance utilizing by the technologies. After working in the financial industry as a management company like 10 years, I started my business in 2014 as a robo-advisor, and I exited in 2018. And WaveBridge is my second business, startup in Korea as a VASP licensed company. Back in 2012, I remember that after the 5 years of working in the mirror asset global investment, I feel the really big gaps between the finance and IT, the technologies, and especially in regulation and securities. Actually, financial institutions wanted to utilize the whole AI technology and robo-advisors, also, blockchain technologies to automate their services in finance. But there is a regulation, the framework in Korea a lot. So the lack of the transparency, things like that. So the Korea's technology development are lagged by like 7 years, I guess. Today they also wanted to invest to the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. However, compared to the traditional finance systems, the Web3 industry still lack of trust and professional infrastructures these days. So I believe that due to the Korea's state controlled finance system, and it is losing opportunities these days. So I founded WaveBridge to making a bridge and infrastructure in finance and digital finance, and specialized in Bitcoin spot ETF in Korea, and also utilizing the whole crypto technology to the finance. Korea, as you know, the Korea is a very unique market. It has one of the most the active retail crypto, environment in the world, I guess, and by the trading volumes. But institutions and regulations have been cautious these days. So why I am, moderating this session today? So I bring the European perspective, also Singapore and Hong Kong and Korea perspective. So I wanted to make more innovative conversations and discussion about what they are thinking about in these days. So with that explanation, let's start. So to begin, it is my great honor to introduce our distinguished speaker from Europe first. Please join me in the warmly welcome Mr. Marius Skuodis, board member of Bank of Lithuania, former Minister of Transportation and Communications of Lithuania.
Hello, everyone. It's a really great pleasure and honor to be here. Actually, to be back in Korea. My last visit was a year ago in a totally different capacity when I worked in Lithuanian government. It's a challenging task for me to present you European perspective on digital assets. I'm using this broad term in only 10 to 15 minutes, but I will try to do that. And I specifically, named the title of my presentation on the perspective from Brussels, which is the capital of all European institutions, to Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. But where a lot of activities related to cryptocurrencies and crypto services are taking place. And I will show you several numbers. But to begin with, I want to mention just a very simple fact illustrating what we at the Bank of Lithuania as a regulator are doing and how we see our mandate. So just a simple fact. We were the first central bank to issue a digital token. Back in 2020, after 2 years of preparation, we issued a collector token which could be exchanged into silver coin of value 19.18. You might question 19.18 euros. You might question why is that number? It's related to our history, the date in 1918 when we reestablished our state. So those different tokens, we issued a number of them, 24,000, grouped into 6 different groups. As a collector, when you were buying them, you had to confirm your identity online. You were allowed to open a digital wallet, and you could receive certain tokens. But they were randomly distributed. Why? Because we wanted for the collectors to try using blockchain technology to exchange those tokens with each other. And when you collected a token from each of 6 token groups, you were allowed to exchange them into a physical coin, which looked like that one, like a card. And they were very popular in Lithuania, but also around the globe. Why we were doing that? For the regulator to learn and to adapt blockchain technology and to promote, at least a little bit, among members of society. That technology is there. We learned a lot about that, but it was back in 2020, after a period of preparation. Since then, both in Lithuania and in Europe, a lot has changed. And the real game changer was related to the so-called markets in crypto assets regulation, MiCA, as you mentioned. What did we have before that, even when we were issuing those digital tokens? At that time, we had national regulatory regimes and large fragmentation within the European Union. After that, since the MiCA regulation was adopted, now we have a unified regulatory regime related to everything about crypto assets. Meaning that in a certain period of time, all crypto asset providers which are operating in Lithuania will have either to get a license and to become properly licensed, or they will have to leave the European market. There is absolute clarity what needs to be done. You could choose any country of the European Union, but standards are more or less the same. And even when you are planning to issue a license to any market participant, you are consulting all other regulators from other European Union member states. So MiCA, in general, is about 4 broad areas. Asset reference tokens, the so-called e-money tokens, like stablecoins, other crypto assets, in theory it could be Bitcoin, and also crypto asset services. What has changed? In Europe, we basically said that crypto assets should be treated as any other asset. It doesn't matter whether it's a security, it's a deposit, it's one of many assets. What did we say about crypto services? That crypto services should be treated as any other service, allowing existing market participants to provide crypto services if they want to, if they get proper licenses, and so on. Regrettably, appetite so far is quite low, I would say, in Europe at the moment. And this is what differentiates Europe from what is happening in Korea at the moment. Also in Lithuania, we are quite unique because we have two institutions responsible for supervising and regulating crypto service providers, the Bank of Lithuania and Financial Intelligence Authority. In general, the goals of the MiCA regulation are written there. We wanted in Europe to create legal certainty for market participants. What has been stressed, for instance, in the morning by the CEO of Binance, that we need legal certainty around the globe for market participants to be able to operate and to provide services that are needed by society. Also, we are very interested as regulators to protect consumers. We're interested in financial stability. All central banks have a certain role to ensure financial stability. And also, we want to promote innovations. Now a little bit about numbers from the perspective in Lithuania. Here you can see the number of so-called CASPs in Lithuania. CASP is Crypto Asset Service Providers. You could see that from 2020 to the fourth quarter in 2022, we had 850 crypto service providers in Lithuania. That's a very large number. After we introduced certain regulations, national regulations related to anti-money laundering requirements, this number dropped significantly to 206, but also kept increasing to 588 in June 24. When we strictened those anti-money laundering regulations, those numbers decreased. And at the moment, we have more than, I would say, more than 350 crypto asset service providers in Lithuania. That's a very large number. In terms of physical entities, it's the largest number in any member state of the European Union at the moment. And out of 10 largest crypto service providers globally, 7 are operating in Lithuania in one or another form, such as Binance, for instance. But MiCA is entering into force. And so far in Lithuania, we issued only one crypto service license to one of market participants. It was Robinhood, US company which entered the European Union market, choosing Lithuania as the gateway to the entire single market within the European Union. In Europe, different European authorities issued 39 licenses. This number is fluctuating because every day, there might be additional company gaining license. So we had around 40 licenses issued to different service providers within the European Union. In Lithuania, we have 13 other licenses for consideration, and of course, we're waiting for companies to send, additional documents to apply and so on, because it's really a game changer. You need to meet certain requirements. You need to be prepared. You need to prepare your company to become a licensed entity. So out of those numbers operating in Lithuania, we see that around 11% of all participants, of all market participants, either crypto service providers or any bank, any payment institution, they are saying that we are interested in providing crypto services. So 11% may seem not a large number, but when we calculate all market participants, both in the crypto part of the world and also traditional services, that's actually quite a large number. In the area of e-money tokens, we have 15 entities within the European Union providing these services. In Lithuania too, in the area of asset reference tokens, we have 0 within the European Union at the moment. So in Europe, we are only moving slowly to the crypto world. A little bit about security sector. In Europe, we also have the so-called DLT pilot regime, creating lower barriers for companies interested in providing crypto services, basically, too. In tokenizing securities, which could be, I believe, also a game changer globally. So this is another area of regulation, the so-called Markets and Financial Instruments Directive, which allows for companies interested in trying the DLT regime, to skip certain regulatory requirements. The regime is set to operate for 3 years, but I am sure it will be prolonged. In Lithuania, we have one company which has recently got a license under this pilot regime and which is trying to tokenize bonds, both, state government bonds and also private company bonds. And in Europe, we have around 4 licenses at the moment, according to this regime. So taking everything into consideration with MiCA, Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, and the so-called DLT pilot regime, actually, there are no barriers to securitization, to securities tokenization in Europe. Some people are saying there are a lot of barriers, but regulation is there, clarity is there. Yes, we are moving slowly in Europe, but we are prepared to move towards that direction. On my final slide, where I wanted to stress a little bit about what central banks are doing. I have recently read about a decision in Korea that Korean central bank said they won't issue central bank digital currency. In Europe, we chose a totally different path. We want to create a digital euro, a digital alternative to cash, a digital addition to cash, where you will be able to pay both online and offline, what is extremely important, in proximity and remotely, in everyday and emerging use cases. For instance, when you don't have electricity suddenly, something happens, climate-related, event, electricity disappears, you don't have cash in your pocket, you want to make a payment. The digital euro will allow that to happen, and so on. So in Europe, we are also moving towards that direction. The Bank of Lithuania is a strong supporter. We are waiting for legislation on the European Union level. When we have that, we will move forward with the preparatory process. The European Central Bank, together with other central banks, will create the core system, but market participants will have to provide services for the final consumer, including interface of the digital euro and so on. So thank you very much. I will stop here and we'll be able to answer some of your questions. Thank you.
Actually, I wanted to ask you one question about in Europe, you guys preparing since 2020 and starting the MiCA licensing in 2023, I guess, and then it's now this July. And actually the USA, they are, the changing the regulation framework the last year by President Donald Trump. And this is really, really fast. So it looks like there is a huge difference in philosophy or the way to expand the CDBC or the stablecoin like that. So I just want to ask you that how do you see the MiCA reshaping and Europe's position in the global digital asset market? So it's kind of how do MiCA can make a strength or the competitiveness in the global market? Just wonder.
So in Europe, we are sometimes slow, but we reach a consensus among different member states within the European Union. But when the consensus is there, we are very strong to deliver, because we are trying to clarify all questions related to that before adopting the legislation, but not after. So it took us some time to prepare, but legislation is there. So Americans have it, we in Europe have it. Now this is for the market participants to move forward. I personally would like to see euro-denominated stablecoins. What if in Europe we started, using US dollar stablecoins? And I recently saw, one of Lithuanian companies, one of Lithuanian developments, making a payment in a restaurant in USDC. For the provider of services, it doesn't matter how it works, because you have your card. In that case, it was a Visa card. You're making the payment. But it was in US dollar stablecoins. I would like to see euro stablecoins too. So the most important thing is that legislation is there. Now this is time for market participants to move forward and to meet the requirements of citizens and businesses.
Thank you for your answer, quite straight answer. And the next is Hong Kong. We look to Hong Kong. Please welcome Mr. Kennix Chan, who will share his perspective on Hong Kong's digital asset market, and he is an executive director and deputy CEO of Victory Securities. So please welcome him.
Okay, hello everyone. So I'm Kennix. I will probably stay on stage because I'm not tall enough. So it's my pleasure to share about what's happening in Hong Kong, the general regulatory landscape in terms of virtual asset or digital asset, and also one of the hottest topics these days, the stablecoin audience. So Victory Securities is a 54 years broker-dealer in Hong Kong. So since 2018, the year we listed on Hong Kong Exchange, we focus a lot on virtual asset development in the regulated space. And in 2022, Victory Securities is the first broker-dealer in Hong Kong which obtained the virtual asset dealing, advisory, and distribution license in Hong Kong. And I'm the responsible officer for these services, and I'm also the deputy CEO of the company as well. So in terms of the virtual asset regulatory landscape in Hong Kong, actually the SFC has been focusing on ensuring investor protection, financial stability, and market integrity. And in short, the licensing requirement in Hong Kong right now is quite established. So any kind of exchange, crypto exchange, which operates in Hong Kong has to get the SFC license, or at least be in line with getting a license. And the scope of regulation for exchanges are covering all the assets, including securities tokens, utility token, and other virtual asset trade on the licensed platform, which is the exchange. And there is also, currently, the exchange in Hong Kong only focus on spot trade. But we will be, the Hong Kong SFC will be exploring on derivative trading in the coming future as well. And in terms of investor protection, SFC always hold the same view as same business, same risk, same rules. So in terms of KYC process, the segregation of client asset, and also the cybersecurity measures are all taking reference from the TradFi side. So this is the general timeline of the virtual asset milestone in Hong Kong. So actually, the SFC has set out the regulatory approach since 2018. But back then, it was a voluntary and sandbox approach for exchange to get licensed. And in 2099, SFC actually released the position paper on regulating VATP as well. VATP stands for Virtual Asset Trading Platform, which is exchange. So back then, SFC generally have a very cautious or conservative view on exchanges in Hong Kong and also cryptocurrency. But everything kind of turns around since 2022. the year Hong Kong government announced that Hong Kong wants to be the global virtual asset hub. And the first circular or the first regulation was released was about intermediaries like broker-dealer like us can engage into virtual asset-related business, including dealing, distribution, and advisory. So in 2023, there was a new regime called VASP, Virtual Asset Service Provider, which is the official regulatory regime for exchanges in Hong Kong. So back then, VATP was the voluntary sandbox regime. So there was a dual licensing regime in 2023 to 2024. And the dual license regime actually takes effect last year, June 2024. And since then, any exchanges who are not licensed and are not in the license applicant will be asked to leave Hong Kong for operations. And by the end of 2024, the stablecoin bills in Hong Kong gazette outlining the licensing regime for fiat reference stablecoins. And please be aware it's only fiat reference. Any crypto reference stablecoin will not be fall into this regime. And since April this year, the stablecoin ordinance takes effect already. So currently in Hong Kong, we have more than 10 applicants applying for the stablecoin issuer. And according to the Hong Kong MA, which is the monetary authorization which regulates stablecoin in Hong Kong, the chief executive, Eddie, he mentioned that the license on the first batch will be limited. Rumors say it's going to be handful, and the first batch is going to be only Hong Kong dollar reference stablecoin. And I would deep into more details later on as well. And actually, apart from the stablecoin ordinance this year, there's actually a new consultation regimes on regulating OTC platforms and also VA custody platform as well. So an SFC actually, and one point is in February this year, the SFC actually announced the Aspire roadmap, which is the future roadmap for regulatory on the virtual asset developments. And it was announced this year, February, and with 12 initiatives, including asset, safeguards, products, infrastructure, and relationship. And in terms of asset, it's mainly to streamline the market entry for regulatory clarity. Because back then, we were only having the exchange license and also the broker-dealer license to engage into crypto. But there were OTC platforms and also custody provider, which kind of fall out of the regulatory regime. So this time, SFC has the consultation to try to include the OTC platform and custody service provider to fall back into the regulatory regime as well. So we estimate this regime will take effect early next year or end of this year. For safeguards, SFC, or you guys may know, Hong Kong always has a very strict regulation on TradFi market or even the virtual asset market. So SFC actually has taken the market opinions and tried to optimize the compliance burden without compromising the security. And mostly, I think SFC is trying to have a more dynamic approach to regulate virtual asset developments, and also especially on the custody standards. Because back then, 2 years ago, exchanges has to have insurance coverage for their custody for clients. It was required to have more than 95%, and it was a huge burden in terms of financials for exchanges as well. So there were a lot of market participants' comments on that, and afterwards, SFC had lowered the insurance coverage requirement to 50%. And in terms of products, because as I mentioned, Hong Kong has been focusing on spot trade the past years. So I think the SFC has also realized that there should be more offerings in terms of product in Hong Kong as well. So in the coming future, we will be expecting more new token listing, including RW tokens, new stablecoins, etc. And apart from that, derivatives is going to be a new thing for Hong Kong in the coming days as well. And lastly, staking has actually gotten the green light a couple months ago, but it was only limited to the ETF spot in Hong Kong. So we will expect there will be staking services provided to the market, to the public in the coming future as well. In terms of infrastructure, because there are not sufficient surveillance or reporting regime or regulation in the virtual asset. So the SFC should try to have a more modern way to report surveillance and cross-agent collaboration in this space as well. So lastly, the relationship is about empowering investor industry through investor education and more collaboration with influencer as well. But in terms of influencer, because they are mostly fall out of the regulatory regime right now, so there might be regulation against influencer as well, because things they said are sometimes more impact to the market as well. So speaking of the stablecoin ordinance, so it was effective from August this year. Hong Kong has taken reference from many different stablecoin policy around the world, and licensee must maintain at least 100% reserve backing with high quality and liquid asset, which I assume should be more or less the same around the world. And apart from that, they have to maintain a strict operational and governance standard, which is okay to Hong Kong MA. And we also have to conduct regular audits to ensure the stability and transparency to the public. So for the Hong Kong ordinance highlights, there are actually regulatory group fall into the three areas. The first one is issuing fiat reference stablecoin in Hong Kong, regardless of the fiat currency. That means you can also apply to issue US dollar or EU referenced stablecoin in Hong Kong as well. And the second part is going to be regulating any fiat reference stablecoins outside or inside Hong Kong, which is pegged to the Hong Kong dollar. And lastly, it will be also regulating any issuer which will be actively promoting the issuance of fiat reference stablecoin to the Hong Kong public. And so there, I think, you guys may have a question about what about, for example, USDT and USDC. As long as they don't actively promote the issuance in Hong Kong is fine to trade among professional investor only. So that's the difference with getting the license and without the license. So if you get the stablecoin license in Hong Kong, you can offer to the Hong Kong public. If not, you can only offer to the professional investor in Hong Kong. So there are 5 types of qualified applicants for the stablecoin ordinance in Hong Kong. Actually, the major requirement would be a company established in Hong Kong. So apart from that, any licensed exchange, banks, broker-dealer like us, and SVF issuers would be qualified to apply the stablecoin ordinance in Hong Kong as well. SVF stands for the payment company license in Hong Kong, which is also under the Hong Kong MA regulations. So be aware that only fiat reference stablecoin issued by the licensed issuer in Hong Kong can be advertised in Hong Kong. So these are the major regulatory requirements for the stablecoin issuer in Hong Kong. So basically, you have to have a minimum pay-up capital of 25 million Hong Kong dollar, which should be around a bit more than 3 mil US dollar, with a physical company and office required in Hong Kong. And also, the circulating stablecoin must be backed by at least 100% equivalent of reserve asset, which must be high quality and liquid. The the stablecoin ordinance does not require you have to buy any government bills in this case. And also, you have to have a robust price stabilization mechanism, which makes sense, and also compliance with the Hong Kong SFC, AML, and HKMA requirements as well. And lastly, issuers are prohibited from paying interest to stablecoin issuers in this case. So this is a short comparison between the Hong Kong stablecoin ordinance and the US Genius Act. So for licensing, there's only one regulatory body in Hong Kong, which is the Hong Kong MA. Compared to the US, there will be 2. There might be 2. So in terms of reserve management and redemption rights, basically the 2 bills are more or less the same. At least you have to have a 1-to-1 backup reserve for this circulating stablecoins. And something that would be interesting is the US only regulate any US reference stablecoin inside or outside USA. But Hong Kong, they're welcoming other currency, like I mentioned, even the US dollar, EU dollar, or most importantly, the offshore renminbi stablecoin to be issued in Hong Kong. And I believe that's why the Hong Kong stablecoin ordinance did not only regulate Hong Kong dollar stablecoin, because there should be a offshore renminbi stablecoin in the coming future as well. And that's my presentation for today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kennix, thank you for the great presentation and details in Hong Kong's regulation framework also. So I just wonder, you just mentioned about the Bitcoin spot ETF, it's like that. So Hong Kong is a bit different from the US and South Korea's, the traditional finance adoptions. So how do you think it's possible to the in-kind, the Bitcoin, custody by the, financial institutions like you or the. So could you explain a little bit more details about that?
So currently, the Hong Kong requires the BTC or ETH spot ETF to be transacted and custody at the licensed exchange in Hong Kong. So basically, everything happens within the closed loop of the Hong Kong regulatory space. So, for example, if there's like investor, they want to use their BTC to invest into the spot ETF, basically they have to onboard with us, and then they have to do the whitelisting of their wallet as well. For the whitelisting, I'll just be short. So basically, we will do the Satoshi test, and we also have the KYT engine to see whether the BTC and the wallet is defined as clean to us. And if it's defined as clean, basically the BTC will fall into the exchange custody and then transfer to the ETF issuer within the same exchange as well. That's how it works in general.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. In Korea, we are not starting a Bitcoin spot ETF these days, and we are opening up the regulation framework first by end of this year, I guess. And we have to have a VASP license, custody something like that. So I just wonder how the Hong Kong is doing that. And yeah, thank you for your answers.